So yeah, last week we spoke about kind of I don't know what you call it. It was inclusion, but I'm trying to figure out how best to phrase it. But yeah, anyway, that's on the YouTube channel if you want to have a listen to that. Different ways of understanding exactly how much Christ did for us and kind of the impact of the cross and how it might be bigger than we think. This week we're going to look at something else. It's going to be a little bit different. I had a lot of stuff going on this week, so I didn't really get a chance to run through my notes the way that I normally would. So there's probably not going to be a notes thing on the drive this week. Obviously I'll put up the audio. I just have the scriptures, and I'm just going to go through the scriptures and kind of just freestyle it almost. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about, in terms of, obviously the series has been our inheritance as children, and kind of just, it's a way of talking and looking at what we have in the finished work, kind of the benefits of the cross. It's just a way of looking at that. One of the things that we haven't quite looked at yet is us as overcomers, and that's the one I want to focus on today, is that we are by nature overcomers. We overcome in Him, and that's part of our DNA as children of God. So we're first going to start with John 16 verse 33. I don't think anybody's new, so you already know that we read in the NKJV. So I'm just going to load up now. John 16 and verse 33. And it reads, "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Now, I know there was a particular week we looked at this scripture. I feel like it was this year. I don't remember why or what the topic was. I just do remember looking at it. I think it was something to do with how he's the vicarious man, something like that. Anyway, we have to remember, obviously, that everything starts with Christ, right? So the reason that we're able to overcome the world is this reason. This is why what he said is relevant. He's not just saying, I've overcome the world. It's like, oh, well, good for you, Jesus, but what about the rest of us? No, it's He is our life. That's how Paul puts it, right? And so Him overcoming is us overcoming, because we live vicariously through Him. He lives vicariously through us as His body, right? So what happens to Christ happens to us. So that's why we're raised, we're glorified, we're all these things that Christ is, because as He is, so are we, just in this world, right? That's how John says it. So when we read here Jesus saying that He's overcome, that means that we have overcome. In Him, we have overcome. Now, Jesus does something here that's interesting. He promises tribulation. Now, the nature of this tribulation, lots of Christians will debate. Some Christians will read this and think about Left Behind and the Antichrist and the mark of the beast and the blah, 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 blah. And I really think that's what Jesus had in mind here. For other people, it's like persecution and blah, blah, blah. And I do think that applies. Not in like the 21st century Western world Christianity complex that we have. I guess what you could compare it to is what's going on in sort of the Middle East for Christians there. But I just think in general, life has the word I guess we use as Christians is trials. Like, there are times and periods and seasons of life where it gets tough for everybody, and life just throws things at you. None of us can escape it. None of us can avoid it. God Himself came down in a human body, and He experienced so much tribulation it literally killed Him. And so, if God can't avoid it, then who are we to avoid it? He promises it here. In this world, you will have tribulation. You will. It's not something you can avoid. It's not something you can pray away. It happens. It comes. The nature of it and the influence we can have over it, that's not really clarified. But we do know that it does happen, that this world comes with its its trials, its tribulations, its struggles. But Jesus then, he doesn't leave it there and just say, well, you're going to have trouble, guys, in a bit. No. He then reassures us here that we should be of good cheer. It's not even that he says, yeah, you know, life's gonna try and get you down, and that's just the way things are, you just leave it there. No, his response is joy. And I don't know which week we looked at that, maybe like the second or third week. But joy is also part of our inheritance, that we have the capacity within us through the Spirit to live in this kind of joy, where even if circumstances, you know, rub us the wrong way, are going in the complete opposite direction of where we'd want them to go, we can still rejoice, because for all the reasons I gave then, we're in him, he's in us, all that stuff, union, wonderful stuff. But in this case, Jesus is then like, well, we can also rejoice because what we have is an overcoming spirit. We, by virtue of our union with Christ, are overcomers. So even when the world throws things at us, they won't bring us down. They won't knock us out or keep, like, you know, we won't lose in this battle because he's overcome. Right? So this is a really, really encouraging scripture for people when they're going through the tough periods of life, to know that, one, there's a song by Bishop Larry Trotter and his choir, and it's called Trouble Don't Last Always. A really nice song, by the way. You should go check it out. But it's true. You know, all these dark times and seasons come to an end. And there's a scripture that my mum used to love quoting, and it was like, let me find it after. It's a really nice way of putting it. I think it's Psalm 126, verse 1. All right, I think she interprets it a little bit differently. Oh, no, okay, no, it kind of is, yeah. So Psalm 126, verse 1 says, when the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. And it's kind of like that for us when we're going through tough periods and it seems endless. I mean, like if I look back in my life and some of the stuff that's happened, and I remember thinking, like, when will this end? And then it does, and then there comes a point where you barely even remember it happening. Like, there never seemed to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and now all of a sudden you've been in the light for ages. And the darkness itself seems strange. Like, oh wow, I used to go through that, I used to deal with that, I used to be in that place. That's crazy. And it's like that for most of us, right? We can live in this joy. We can be of good cheer even when things are happening, because we know how the story ends. We know that he makes all things work together for our good, right? We are those who are the called, according to the Bible. We are those who love him. And so we know that he makes all things work together for us, for our good. And so we can stand in that promise and know, no matter the situation we're going through, how bad it seems, how there's just endless night, like it, you know, it seems like there's just no end to what's going to be going on, we know that it will end well, right? So that's just the first verse that I wanted to look at. In John 16, where Jesus, in context actually, so Jesus here is, he's talking to the disciples about the fact that he's about to go to the cross. And He's basically Jesus. He must have been so jarring for the disciples, because Jesus was the kind of person that never gave a straight answer to a question. Like, never. Everything he said was, you always had to dissect it, and there will be metaphors and parables, and it's long-winded stuff. You had to sit there and decipher what he was meaning and all this stuff. So when he's telling them about how he's going to the cross, he doesn't just say it like, I'm going to go and die on the cross. And no, he's talking about, I'm going to go to my Father's house and make a place for you. You won't see me, but then you will see me. I'm going to the Father. And they're thinking, what is this guy on about? Right? So he's letting them know about what's going to happen, what's going to come to pass, how he's going to go to the Father, blah, blah, blah. And then he warns them about what's going to happen after that. So he then says, you will be scattered. But, well, actually, the scattered thing, I think, is talking about the cross and how they're all going to desert him in a second. And then he obviously ends it with what we just read. So in this world, you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Now, the world, the meaning of the world, I think it differs for different people. When I think of the world, I think of, I don't really know how to describe it. It's just everything that this encompasses is like, not just, because when people hear the world, usually Christians just think sin, anything sin related, and I get that, but I think it's more than that. I think it includes the sufferings and just there's a general suffering in this world that we're all subject to. Like, people come into this world and live, and then they die. That dying thing. Yes, we as believers, we sleep, and then we're raised to life again. But when you love someone and they pass, that's suffering. That banging line from One Division, where the Vision said that grief is love persevering, which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing line. But it's true. That in this world we will live and we will die. All the relationships that we have will eventually come to an end, because no one lives forever. Here, anyway. And so things like that, things like people being born sick, all these sorts of things, they just come with this world. Like, if you're here, you're guaranteed to go through X, Y, Z. Certain things are going to happen to you. There's going to be suffering in the world. You're going to have to watch it. You're going to have to endure it. All this stuff, right? And I think that, to me, is what the world encompasses. And I think for most people in life, they're really just getting through it. Like, they're not... Yes, they may have fleeting moments of enjoyment. They may go to a motive and have a good time. They may stay with their friends, have a good time or whatever. But a lot of people are literally struggling through life. It's day to day. They're just getting by. They're just not living in joy. Right? It's every day is a struggle. Every day is a fight. And I just know that that's not how we're meant to live. Right? God didn't create us to just get through the day. And I don't want to sound like one of those motivational speakers about you need to seize the day, but I'm saying, that we were made for more than just struggle living. And I don't want to sound like a prosperity preacher. I mean that in a financial sense either. I just mean that we should wake up full of joy and excitement about what life is going to bring to us. And for a lot of people, they don't have that. They're bored out of their minds. People use social media as an escape. People don't want to live in the real world and face their issues. People spend as little time with their own thoughts as possible because, there's so many things that people struggle with that, the world is bringing them down. And then you get like the famous people that spent their whole lives, pursuing one particular goal. And so the world, in that sense, will offer you everything, fame, fortune, all of that stuff. And then when that person gets it, it doesn't mean anything. That's part of the world. Or if that person's been put on a pedestal and then they slip up, the world will take that pedestal away and they'll get, completely shoved down to the bottom. And so just being in this world, it's so easy to be brought down. Like, you turn on the news, it's always negative. This has happened, this war's happening, this natural disaster's happened, XYZ. Everything's just alerting us to how bad things are, that it feels like things aren't getting better. There's always issues, always problems. It's very, very negative, very, very pessimistic. People, like humanity, we're wired psychologically to cling more to negativity than positivity. In my job, we've learned through like some psychology stuff that people are way more alerted to fear of loss than the potential of gain. So like, if you tell someone, oh, you can go to the gym and get in really good shape, like, yeah, that's nice, cool, I have that to gain. But if you tell someone your life is in danger if you don't lose this much weight in the next 2-3 months, they're going to get themselves to the gym ASAP, because that fear of what they may lose is a way stronger force than the allure of what they may gain. So it's interesting that we're hardwired towards negativity. I mean, those of you who are on social media, you see how easy it is to get ratioed, cancelled, all these things, and it's people just jump on. But when people try and spread a positive message, it doesn't get nearly the same response. It's really, really interesting. I say all that to say that it's very easy for the world to bring us down in all its different forms and all its different ways. Pretty much everybody here is black, right? So we all deal with systemic racism. A lot of you here are women. You deal with patriarchy, you deal with misogyny. There's so many forces at play that can just make it hard. That, like I said, a lot of people are just existing in this world because life has completely gotten them down. People aren't able to dream. Their friends around them don't encourage them to pursue their dreams. All these different things happen, and so that child inside of them that wanted to do X, Y, Z is gone, or is at least the glimmer of light that they had has been put out, because they've been so discouraged by other people trying to give them advice and saying, oh, you're not good enough for that, and I don't think you'll make it, and da-da-da. Life getting people down. But we know, well, we know this anyway, that in him we overcome the world. We overcome all of that. Everything life throws at us, we overcome. It doesn't matter what life throws at us, we overcome. No matter the trial, the tribulation, the struggle, we overcome. For some people, the world is whatever their secret addiction is, right? Some people it's drugs, other people it's, pornography, masturbation, whatever it is. For them, that's getting them down. They feel like there's just no way they'll ever beat that sin. There's no way they'll ever stop feeling the guilt and the shame and the condemnation. But we overcome. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. If it's part of the world, we will overcome it. Right? That's the promise that Jesus gives us, is that in me, you overcome, because I've overcome the world. Jesus lived out that life. He went through, Hebrews tells us that he empathizes with us in our temptations. He knows what it's like to be tempted to do all these things, but he obviously resisted. And so in him, as that vicarious man, we resist. And so we're now able to resist that same thing. We don't have to give in to the condemnation. We don't have to give in to the desire to point fingers. We don't have to give in to all these negative things that kind of come with the world. We don't have to do that, because we overcome. Right, so that's John 16. Let's go to John 1:5. It's a nice one, actually. John 1 and verse 5. People usually know verse 1. In the beginning was the Word. Talking about the Logos, Christ, basically. And when we get to verse 5, well, let's read from verse 4, actually. So in him was life. In him was life, and the life, that life, was the light of men. Then we get to verse 5. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. Other versions may have like overcome or couldn't stand against it. Extinguish, overcome, comprehend, overpower, apprehend, blah, blah, blah. Right? This is what's in us, the life of man, the light. Jesus obviously says he's the light of the world, and says we're the light of the world. Same thing, as he is, so are we. What we have in us. Sometimes it's easy to forget when life, especially when I'm talking about life getting us down, it's so easy to lose focus of who we are and what we possess, what we carry. Because life will beat you up into thinking that you're nothing. And we have to remember that, no, we have all sufficiency in all things. We are heirs, co-heirs, joint heirs with Christ. We are children of God. We are full of the Spirit. We are all these things that we've been looking at, right? We are literally the divine headquarters. The Trinity meet in us, right? Because we are the dwelling place of God in his fullness. We are complete in him, right? So the light of the world, the light that started all of this, the light that when we read in 1 John 1 that God is light and in him is no darkness at all. That light with no darkness in it, that light is in us. We have that in us, and it's such a powerful and strong force that it overcomes anything the darkness throws at it. So much so that, as we read here, the darkness, one, can't overcome it, but two, some versions have it doesn't even comprehend it. This light is such a other thing, it's such an anomaly. It's like, I don't understand. And relating that to what we just spoke about, the world and kind of the world trying to bring us down and things like that. When people walk in this light, we're told that we should walk in the light as he is in the light. When we start to walk in this light, the world doesn't understand it. Living the Jesus way, the radical, forgiving, self-giving, that way of living, self-emptying, living your life in service of others, that doesn't make sense to most people because we're taught in this world to live selfishly. It's all about us. We're very individualistic, whereas from the scriptures we see that it's all about the community. It's all about the body. It's all about us loving our neighbors as ourselves, right? Loving our enemies. That's how far Jesus and Paul take it. So living that way is just so foreign and weird to that mindset of the world. It's all about us at the expense of others and doesn't care for others, and it's all that mindset doesn't understand this mindset. That lifestyle doesn't understand this lifestyle. It doesn't comprehend it. But the beauty of it as well is that it doesn't overcome it either. So we know a lot of people that will be doing the right thing, and it seems like those that are, not doing the right thing, as it were, are prospering, and it's going well for them. And it's like, well, I'm doing everything I should be doing, and why isn't it working out for me, but it's working out for them? They're doing things this way, they shouldn't be doing it that way. But remember, darkness doesn't overcome the light, right? If it's dark in a room and I switch on the light, the room doesn't take a while to get bright. As soon as the light comes on, the whole area is illuminated. There's no contest when it comes to light versus darkness. There is no way that darkness can overcome light. And so we have to remember that that light is in us. We are carriers of that light. And there's nothing the darkness can do to overcome us. Right? So then we go to Romans 12:21. Kind of relates to what I was just saying as well about the world getting us down, blah, 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 blah. The temptation for a lot of people is to essentially give up on the way of living that they are living, and standing out and doing things, I guess, the way that we know they should be done, and just compromising on our values and things like that. We don't need to do that. But there's a very, very strong temptation. The world will entice you with, oh, no, it's fine. It's not that bad. It's this, it's that. And so for us, we know, probably shouldn't do this, probably should do that. This isn't going to be helpful. Obviously we don't define sin here as like some God hates it, upsets God, makes him cry thing. No, it's just, is it harmful to me or my neighbor? If it is, I should probably stay away from it, right? And so the temptation, like I said, is when we're being bombarded on every side from all corners by this stuff that we know is harmful, we know it's toxic, the response can either be just to accept it, oh, it's just the way life is, man, and you, I guess, become part of the problem, or you let it affect you and you actually literally like start to do the very things you don't want to do. You can either be like that, or you can not let it do that to you, not let it influence you, not let it overwhelm you, overcome you, which is what we have here. It reads, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Right? We can choose to let this stuff affect us and our behavior and how we think and act, or we can choose not to. And when I say that, I don't mean don't listen to secular music, because that's going to affect. I'm not talking about that kind of that kind of thing. Or I'm talking about, we live in a society, for example, that, I mean, societies have always done this, but we scapegoat very heavily today. It's not in the same way as like it ends with people killing. It doesn't end in like literal bloodshed and violence like it used to. Now it's a lot more verbal, virtual scapegoating, like cancellations of people, for example, get people cancelled and blah blah blah. It's so easy to join in on that and point fingers and judge and condemn and all these things, but we know that the language of heaven in those matters is mercy, right? It's compassion, it's forgiveness, it's love. It's so easy to be overcome by that mob mentality where you just join in on stuff that really you don't really care about in the real world, but while it's all going on online, you want to join in, you want to give your 2 pence, you want to do whatever. And we have to remember in those moments, no, we don't let this stuff overcome us. We are different. We overcome those things. Those things don't influence us. We have another influence. We have the Spirit of God influencing us to live this way, right? And so we don't have to partake in those things. We don't have to let that stuff get to us either, right? A lot of people end up in really bad situations out of retaliation, because they've let bad things happen to them. Maybe people have treated them a certain way, and as I guess a traumatic response, they shut down. That stuff overwhelms them. The evil that's happened to them, the pain that it's caused them has overwhelmed them, and their reaction is, instead of working through it and being able to kind of heal through it and progress, it's to regress and just to get worse. It's another example of being overcome by evil, but we don't have to do that. We don't have to let that stuff get to us. We're not the type of people. Dan Moder preaches about this stuff, about taking offense. There's no need to take offense. We have nothing to be offended by. Right? We have no pride, we have no ego in who we are in Christ. We are those who don't seek their own, right? We walk in love. That 1 Corinthians 13 love. We're not focused on ourselves. We're living for the good of others, right? So there's no, oh, that upset me, offended me, that's fine. We brush it off. We're those who are quick to forgive, right? quick to show mercy, quick to show compassion, always looking to understand the enemy. Right? We will have tribulation in this life. There will probably be people that will be enemies, not because we've made them enemies, or not because we see them as enemies, but they see us as enemies, and that can't really do much to change that. If people want to dislike you, they will dislike you. But again, we don't let that stuff affect us and get to us. We are totally, completely secure in who we are, and nothing can shake that. Right? So we don't let that stuff overcome us. We don't let that stuff overwhelm us. Yeah, so that's the Romans 12:1. Let's go to Psalm 46. Let's take it OT. I'm sure people know this one as well. Psalm 46, verse 1. And it reads, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Otherwise, just have time of need or whatever. Sometimes we forget that we have access to a Father who genuinely cares, right? That was one of the things we read back in that series when Peter says that we should cast our cares upon him because he cares for us. We don't have an absent Father who doesn't have a clue what's going on in his children's lives and doesn't care. No, we have a very, very present Father who is there watching everything happen with us in every moment, experiencing everything with us, going through everything with us. When we weep, he weeps. It's not like he's completely detached and not able to experience this stuff. Which is why we're told that we're supposed to rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Where do we think we got that from? That's the nature of our Father to do that. That's what Christ did when he came. He experienced all the human emotions. He knew what it's like to weep. He knows what it's like to be so joyful, all these things. Right, so it's really easy to forget in moments of tribulation and trial that our help is actually there, right there with us, no further away than when we're in the prayer closet and we're absolutely going hard in tongues, whatever. That has no bearing on the fact that when we need help, our Father will be there. One, because he never leaves or forsakes us, but two, just because of the nature of our Father and how he is. He's always going to be there to support, always going to be there to help. And when we remember that that's what he can do, it's a lot easier to in those moments to then remember him and then to lean on him and trust in him. And then, because, he's so trustworthy and faithful, it then means that we then start to rely on him more than us, because we know how people are. People can be flaky, people can be wishy-washy, they can change at any moment. Like, that's not what we want. We want someone solid and stable that can help us. And that's what our Father is. Our refuge and strength. For some people, they may know our Father only as a refuge, right? So when they're going through tough, like a lot, even unbelievers in the world will kind of see God as a refuge. There's always those jokes from like apologists, Christian apologists, who will be like, oh, no one's an atheist everybody's an atheist until the plane like faces turbulence or whatever, That's when you start to hear everybody praying to their gods, blah, 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 praying to Jesus, praying to the Father, all this stuff, right? And so people know him as their refuge, that I need reassurance, I need to feel safe. God is the one that's going to protect me. But we, as those who are conscious of this union that we have, can understand that there's more to it than just that. right? That our Father could not only be a refuge, a place of refuge and safety for us, but also our actual strength. So in those low moments when it feels like the whole world's crashing down and everything's going wrong, we receive strength from our Father. Right? We get to experience that strength, that supernatural strength. And then, like I said, an ever-present help in times of need and struggle and trouble. Always there, always willing to help, always with us. Right? So remembering that in the moments where things go wrong, we just remember, hold on a second. So yeah, that's Psalm 46 verse 1. Let's go to Matthew 6 and verse 34. Matthew 6 and verse 34. And it reads, now in context use is obviously talking about how we're meant to live, knowing He just revealed about the Father stuff, and basically be like, this is the kind of dad that you have. And so as a result of what He's been saying about what our Father's like, He then says to them, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Sorry, that's the BSB. Let me go back to Engage AB. Don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. It's kind of what I was talking about when I said that the world just kind of brings struggle and tribulation and stuff with it, right? So what we have here is, as a result of what we've been talking about, knowing who we are, what we carry, we don't need to live life worried about what's going on tomorrow. We don't need to let anxiety and fear take hold of us, worrying about the future and what's going to happen and the potential this and that. That's not the stuff that we need to be worried about. Like I said, we know how it all ends. It ends well for us. Right? So we don't have to live day by day worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen next week, 2 years, 3 years. We get to live in the now. Jesus releases us from that kind of way of living where you're perpetually scared of the future, or alternatively, you're whatever about the past, right? That's been totally removed. And so we don't have to then worry. We don't have to live in worry. We are those who get to, like I said, live in the present, live in the now. Enjoy now. Enjoy everything happening now. Take the time to embrace the journey that we're on, right? Everybody has different goals and ambitions and blah, blah, blah. And for a lot of people, that takes up their worrying about tomorrow. And in that, they miss being able to live in the present, being able to just be here, just be. Not with any end goal in mind or anything, just to be. We are human beings, right? Not human doings. I think that's what Todd White used to say. And so as overcomers, like I said, we know that this finishes well. This ends well for us. Like everybody, I'm trying to think of, I know some testimonies take super long to happen, but I'm trying to think of like people I know that they've been dealing with XYZ for ages and the situation just doesn't change. It's really not, it's not that common. Yeah. And so that again enables us to just live in the moment, because we don't have to be those who are super worried about what's going to come next and don't know. Our focus is now, living in the now, enjoying union in the now, enjoying each other in the now, Cool. So let's go to Romans 8, and we're going to read verses 17 to 18. If we are going to be those who think about the future, then we need to make sure we remember it in this way and think about it in this way, in light of who we are and what we have. So Paul says here, we are children of God. That's the end of 16. And verse 17, if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if indeed we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together. So we need to remember, one, the meaning of joint heirs there. It's not like the father split his inheritance between all his children. That's not what it is. We all have access to all of the inheritance. We all carry equal status before the Father. Right? We're joint heirs. We have the same inheritance. It's exactly, we all have the same. And obviously it's the fullness of God, so we all have the same fullness of God. Right? So we, going into verse 18 now, I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. That's what I was saying earlier, right? That we don't know what we carry when we talk about the light that we have. Sometimes we forget how unique and special we are as human beings, as image bearers. Like, we just take to, like Tracy, right? She lives with a little toddler, and just the personality that that toddler has. It's incredible to watch that toddler grow up. You know, it's amazing to see that whole life process unfold. Just to see kind of how special human beings are, right? Because of the way we behave, what we're able to do, etc., etc. And it's like, wow, there's something glorious about us, about human beings. Especially when we then start to realize, you know, that the imprint of God is on all of us as those made in his image. And then when people start to realize that mankind starts to live that way, with that mindset, it changes everything. Right? So when we understand what we carry, what's in us, obviously hindsight is 20/20, right? So a lot of people, it's harder to see things this way because they have to essentially look to the future. But if we can remember I don't know what the word is, just what we have and who we are and how amazing it is to be those who house the fullness of God, to be those that are X, Y, Z, right? That's who we are. Those are the things that we have. And when we realize that, then we start to then see that in the grand scheme of things, the issues that we're going to be dealing with on day to day, what we are facing, the things that we do know will end eventually, they become a lot smaller in comparison to the glory that's going to be revealed. Again, I know whenever I touch on the scripture, I always say this, but it has to be said. This is not an external glory that's going to be put on us. This glory is already in us. A lot of people, when it comes to like the end times doctrine and understanding, you know, we come back body, spirit, soul, whatever. A lot of people are under the impression that, you know, that when our bodies are glorified, it's like this extra glory suit we put it on. And it's nothing like that. This glory is already within us. It's just waiting to be released, waiting to be revealed. And for a lot of us, if we don't understand this, it's only gonna be revealed like on the release day or whatever. But for those of us who understand who we are, what we have, we can start to experience some of this a little bit earlier. Right? this glory could be revealed. Jesus was revealing glory before he went to the cross. And some of his miracles, he was revealing his glory, right? We can do the same. That's literally what Jesus said. We can do the same things he did. So, those are just some of the scriptures. Like I said, I didn't really have notes, so I don't want to keep going on and on and on. Next week I'll have notes. I'm all settled in the new place now, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I do want to announce that as of the end of this month, Platts will no longer be continuing. This is the last month of the Grace platform. It's going to be a poetic end because the audio on the YouTube channel starts from the first Thursday in October. And yeah, it's going to be nice to end it 2 years later on the last week of September. So yeah, we've got, I think, 4 more weeks this month, 4 more Thursdays. So yeah, we'll continue with this, and we'll wrap things up on the 20. It'll be the 23rd of September. Oh wait, no. Oh, the 30th is I think the 30th will be a Thursday. Let me check the calendar. Hold on. It's got 28 days, yeah. So the 30th will be the last one. The literal last day of the month will be the last day of Platts. So yeah. Oh, someone asked what the verse was. Sorry. We were in Romans. I don't know if it was Romans 8 that you were looking for, 17, 18, about us being heirs and then the glory being revealed from within us. What we go through now is nothing compared to that. Or if it wasn't that, it was the one before, which was it Matthew 6 that we looked at before that? Oh, wow. But yeah, hopefully those are the scriptures that you were looking for. But yeah, so cat's out of the bag. We'll be ending Platts this month. This is going to be the last month of the Grace platform. It's been an amazing journey. Oh, the Psalms one, Psalm 46 verse 1, I believe. Yeah, it's been an amazing 2 years. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody got any questions? Okay, we got one loading. Someone asked when I'm restarting Platts. When I'm 50. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, there's no plan to. You know, we started this fellowship to get the message of the finished work of Christ out, and I feel we have accomplished that. I think we have enough teaching online now, almost 2 years worth. As of when we end it will basically be 2 years worth of teaching. I think that's enough material to last people a very long time. A lot of scriptures in there, a lot of recommendations. We did the Zooms, we did the Clubhouse rooms. There's a lot that we put out, a lot of content. The people that stumbled upon the channel, and that was kind of the purpose of the YouTube channel, is that people in 20 years time that are struggling with their theology will be able to kind of stumble upon the channel and have all the wealth of a library of videos and sermons and to listen to help them along that journey into understanding the nature of God and the grace of God and blah 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 blah. So yeah, we did what we came to do. So now it's time to transition into the next phase, the next stage of our lives. But yeah, it's been an amazing 2 years. Real roller coaster. A lot of ups and downs along the way, but I wouldn't change a thing about it. So yeah, any other questions?